will be uploaded later on onto the council website. So just to make you aware of that. And secondly, when you're not speaking, it would be helpful if you could mute your microphone just to maintain the bandwidth. Hopefully, the technology will hold up for the rest of this this meeting. So without any further ado, then if I could go into the first item on the agenda, which is the well, first of all, have we got any apologies that anyone wants to record in the minutes? Anyone send their apologies?
No apologies, Chair.
Okay, I'll take silence as a no. So in terms of the minutes of last time, they were sent out with the agenda. For those who were present and can remember, are we happy to agree those as a true record of the meeting? Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you. Okay. Well, if we thanks, Kath. In that case, if we're happy to move those as a true record, that's fine. In terms of matters arising, there was one question in terms of any increase in fly tipping as a result of the changes to the waste recycling centre. So as you can see, there was a written answer there from the waste manager that's been included on the front of the agenda. So that was the answer to the question. There hasn't been any corresponding rise in fly tipping, and the arrangements seem to be working very well. In terms of the other matters that were coming up, I think they're probably covered by certainly the later presentation that we've got from Kerry in terms of the customer services and the contact centre. So,
excuse me, Gareth.
Kath?
I think people are trying to get into the meeting. I see an email there from Julie Foster asking to be let in.
I'm just gonna try and add Julie in now.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry,
Pam will keep. No, that's no problem. Pam will keep trying to join them in as we continue. Hopefully they won't have their own private meeting like happened last time. So we'll see how that one works out. So if we could move on then to item 4 on the agenda. This is a discussion about carbon literacy training, and I know Nicola Dance is with us, who's the Senior Policy and Partnerships Officer. Not sure if Alan Prescott is joining us as well, Nicola?
Alan is with us.
Okay, in which case I'll hand over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. And thank you everyone for giving us this opportunity to come and speak to you this evening. I have a very brief presentation to share with you. And if it's okay, if you could ask any questions at the end, that would be really helpful, because I won't be able to see everybody at the same time while I'm presenting. So yeah, I'll share this presentation now. Let me know if there's any problems, okay, but hopefully this will work. Okay, I think I'm sharing. Is that working for everybody? If I go from the beginning.
Yeah, it's up on my screen.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
so,
it's on my screen.
That's good.
Okay, thank you very much. So Alan Prescott and I are here this evening to talk to you about an initiative under the One Newport partnership. I've previously been here before and talked to you about One Newport Public Services Board. One Newport still remains, but it is a partnership now rather than a public services board. And we're still delivering our wellbeing plan for Newport, which includes several areas of wellbeing, including environmental wellbeing. And we also have a programme of activity that relates to skills and knowledge. So we're bringing those together through a new initiative that we've got operating, which is carbon literacy training. And it's through the Veil of Us Leader programme, which is the source of funding for this project. So this is the initiative we'd like to trail with you this evening. And there will be further information coming out to you in the next week or so about this. So we'd like to offer some free carbon literacy training to community councils in Newport and across Monmouthshire. It's a joint initiative with Monmouthshire County Council, which is why it's across those two areas. And through that carbon literacy training, what representatives of community councils would basically be learning is about the link between human activity and climate change. And that would give them the knowledge then to take action to reduce carbon emissions on an individual level or on a community council level. And you can see there that the funding and the programme that we've developed allows for reps, 116 places to representatives from community councils or organisations running community buildings. So this is all under the auspices.
Is community manager John Price from Roverway.
Okay, am I okay to continue?
Yes, carry on.
Julie just joining now.
Right.
Thanks very much.
Okay, so the Carbon Literacy Project is a UK-wide project, and it's a movement really of people and organisations that are keen to come together to understand their contribution to reducing climate change and how they reduce their carbon emissions. And so there's a definition of carbon literacy, which is here on the screen. It's an awareness of the carbon costs and impacts of everyday activities, so things we do every day, and then having the ability as well as the motivation to reduce those emissions as individuals or on a community and an organisational basis. So from a community council's point of view, the representative would be thinking about this from an individual basis, but also a community council level basis. So a bit of the background. We came together with Monmouthshire to submit a bid for this to the Rural Development Programme Fund, and we were successful. And this is the area that this covered is known as the Vale of Usk Leader Area, and essentially it's the Vale of Usk Leader Area is a whole programme of activity that is delivered across Monmouthshire and across the rural wards of Newport. Not all rural wards, but the 5 here that are on the screen. So Llanwern, Marshfield, Graig, Culzean and Langstone. And in terms of community councils, that accounts for 12 of our 14 community councils in the Newport area. In terms of the training, we are extending the training to all 14 community councils, and it's going to be delivered in the new year by an organisation called Canal Cymru, who've delivered a lot of this training across Wales. So this is just a little bit more information about what the programme involves. We have funding to deliver training to 116 representatives of community councils or organisations that are looking after community buildings in our rural areas. This is across Newport and Monmouthshire. And then we also have 90 places to deliver the training to residents. And that would be, we're thinking of 3 sessions of 30 people. It would be online. And that would be to residents of Monmouthshire and residents within the 5 rural wards that I mentioned earlier. We are restricted within the funding to deliver the training within those rural areas, but we do have a legacy from it because we can also deliver train the trainer. So through, for example, our adult education service, or potentially through really keen people who have done the training themselves, they can become trainers themselves and then go on to deliver the training to organisations themselves. So that gives us the opportunity then to have trainers who can roll out carbon literacy training across the whole of Newport further down the line. So what you get if you sign up to the training is a day's worth of learning, so 7 hours of learning, but delivered in kind of more bite-sized chunks over a week. So all online, 2 online sessions of 3 hours, and then you spend an hour yourself going through the materials and thinking about it, which would give you 7 hours of learning in total. And that's important because this is accredited training. It's a training by the Carbon Literacy Project. So they need to be clear that the content of the course and the amount of time that the participants are on it is worthy of that accreditation. So it's really important that it's 7 hours. And what you learn, I've actually done the course myself, and it's really, really very interesting. I learned a huge amount, and it has made me think differently. You kind of get an introduction into the facts and the science behind climate change. You learn about the the impact of different actions that you might consider taking. And then through the knowledge you've gained, you think about what you might wish to do as an individual, or in partnership with the community council as a whole, to make a difference in terms of addressing climate change. And as it's accredited, at the end, there is a certificate for successful completion of the course. So this is happening in the new year. There will be 4 opportunities for representatives of community councils or organisations looking after community buildings to sign up. So there's a course in January from the 18th, then 2 in February, and then 1 in March. And you can choose to do the training in the evening, or in the morning, or in the afternoon. So we've tried to build in some flexibility to suit the different arrangements and circumstances of people who might be interested in joining. This is just a little bit about, I guess, the carbon literacy project. So it's a new movement, but it's growing rapidly. So already 23,000 citizens have been through the course. I'm one of them, and between them they've sort of committed to 46,000 different pledges, and they can be really small pledges or they can be larger community-based pledges. It doesn't matter, as long as you're kind of aiming to make some kind of difference. 1,974 organisations engaged. Newport City Council and Monmouthshire County Council are amongst those. Just moving on. So next steps for this are, very quickly, as in next week, we will be starting to issue more material on this, publicity material, and more details about how people can sign up. So we will be writing to the clerks of the community councils, potentially through Pamela. I hope that's okay, Pamela. Sending out.
Yes, of course. Yep.
Yeah, sending out how you can register, what the course content is, when it's available, all the information that you need. One person can register on behalf of each community council, because we need to make sure that every community council has the opportunity. If it's not filled that way, then obviously we might be able to make it available to more than one representative. The booking link goes live next week, but if you wanted to get in touch with me before then to express your interest, that's fine, and my email address is there. It would be really helpful to us if you could also sort of disseminate this information, because we are not clear about the range of organisations within your areas that operate community buildings. So you will be aware of village hall committees or sports clubs, church groups, church buildings within your area where there might be people involved who might be interested in doing this themselves. So if you're able to pass on this information or let us know, give us email addresses or something, then that would be really helpful. And also to promote the courses to residents in your area. So there'll be a range of materials that we can let you have if you wanted to include it in your own newsletters or email on or whatever you think, to people who you think might be interested in this, then we'd be really grateful for that. And I'm happy to take any questions or to speak with you separately if you want to contact me. That would all be fine. So that concludes the presentation. I'll unshare, but Alan and I are happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thanks, Nicola. Any questions on the presentation?
Can I just clarify one thing? Thank you. That was very interesting, and I'd certainly be very interested. You said there's 116 places. Initially, you're saying one person from each community council. Yeah,
it sounds like there's a mismatch there, doesn't there? There's actually, yes. We're going right across Monmouthshire as well. There are far more community councils.
Right, yeah, I thought as much.
So that takes up the bulk.
Right.
But yes, it is also available to organisations running community buildings. So they're within that number as well.
Fine, okay.
Thanks. Kath?
Hi.
Yes, thank you. Hi. That was yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of groups in my village that I think would like to know about that. We've got the church and the village hall committee. If there's any sort of concise information, got like a poster or something that you could send to me, and I can forward on to them something short and to the point, so that you know, they know what it's about. Have you got any literature like that?
Yes, that's being developed at the moment, and it will be available next week. So we'll send that out. We'll send that out via Pamela, but also there will be social media about this. So it'll be sent out. You'll see it in posts from Newport City Council, but also if you wanted to follow the One Newport partnership on Twitter, for example, we're at One Newport, and we'll be issuing as much communication as we can about this as possible, because we'd like as many people as possible to be aware of it within your areas. So, you know, if you have newsletters or anything that you could include this in, we'd be really very grateful. Thanks.
Any other questions? Can't see anybody indicating. No, all happy?
Yeah.
Okay, in that case, thanks Nicola, thanks Alan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Right then, moving on, item 5, customer complaints contact centre. This was something that came up last time, so we've invited Kerry Foote, who's the customer services manager. I think Karen Gregg is with her as well, the systems development manager.
Yeah, Karen's here.
So Kerry, I don't know how you want to play this. Did you want to say something first, or?
Yeah, I've not done any kind of fancy presentation or anything.
No, don't worry about
So I think the understanding was there were some difficulties in how things were reported. There were potentially some issues with the app, and I think some instances of where you're not contacted back by the back office is my understanding.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to explain how the contact centre works in terms of contacts and callbacks. So we have a system that we use to log every single call, and it's the same system that our residents will use to set up their own accounts. And I think currently we had over 50,000 residents that set up their own accounts. And that system is integrated with a lot of the back office systems as well. So the contact centre operators operate from a system called an A to Z, which is a massive knowledge database. So if you were to call to report a missed waste collection or to report a pothole, for example, they would use that database to answer your call. Now, the information that's on that database is actually owned by the service areas. The service areas give us information on how they want us to handle their calls, their service request types. And what happens is the agent will search for potholes or will search for missed waste, and they have a lot of scripting that tells them how to deal with that call. If it needs just an information given, that's what they give. If it needs a call login to go to the back office, they will log the call for the resident. That call then goes off to the back office. When we set up our A to Z, our knowledge base, the back offices agreed the information that we hold on that A to Z. They agreed the information, i.e. the questions or the attributes that we ask the customer when we create a report for them. And then they agree with us a service level agreement of from when they receive that service request, what their timescales are to get back to the customer. So once it leaves us and it goes to the back office, that's when that clock starts ticking. I think there is a perceived notion that the contact centre get information back from the service officer, from the service areas, and they will contact the customer, but it isn't. Once it's left customer services, the onus is on the back offices to respond to the customer. Now, if the call is logged on a call type that goes into the service area's back office, then whatever goes onto that record is relayed back to the customer via an email. So if you put an email into your account, or if we set up an account for you with an email, every time a note is added by the back office, that should feed back to your email address.
No, it doesn't.
So if there's nothing coming back to you, then it is likely that that back office has not updated that job record.
Don't put my hand up.
So I think that could be where the issue is coming from. So does that make sense to everybody in terms of the contact centre's position in terms of not offering callbacks, but the onus is actually on the service area?
You're on mute, Gareth.
Sorry, thanks. Yeah, Kath, do you want to come in first? I think you indicated earlier.
Yes. What do you mean by back office? I've been a bit confused on that. Do you mean each individual department, like planning or enforcement or whatever? Right, that's your description. Yeah. So a lot of the residents I've spoken to and mentioned that we were having this conversation today have also admitted or said that they never get any feedback as well. So it can't be just individuals that you haven't got our up-to-date email or whatever. There's obviously, if it's all of us, there must be something issue here.
Okay, I can give you an example of how it works. For instance, if you were to ring to report a pothole, for example, we would log that under your name and address and put your email address in. That goes from our system direct into the highway system and out to an inspector. So it creates a job for the inspector. The inspector will go out and look at the pothole. They will add notes to their system, which then comes back through our system, and it should come out by email to tell you what the inspector has noted.
Sorry, can I just, before we go to the gentleman in red?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Christmas.
It's a lot of the time the expectation is that if you have a registered customer account, you would check against your registered customer account. So the request that you put in, and we actually probably have about 85,000 registered customers now across Newport. It's increased quite considerably, especially over the last 12 months. But they would have the expectation that you could go back into your customer portal and you could see all of the requests that you've raised. And if a note had been added by the service area, or if you've made a booking for something, you would then be able to look at anything that had been added. You'd be able to cancel your bookings. So I think it's us maybe trying to engage more maybe with the citizens of Newport and try and promote the customer portal, and the fact that that's really where you need to go back to look at all of the requests that you've put through, because it might be that the service areas are putting on maybe an internal note rather than external one for the customer. But so long as they put a note on your request that you've put through, even if you don't get an email, you should still see the note if you go back into your account. Does that sort of make sense? So even if you're not getting an email, you actually have a registered account where you can go back in and have a look at the requests yourselves. Sorry, I just want to let you know that you may not actually get an email for all of them, but the notes would be available on the request that you've put in. Just out of curiosity, how many of you actually have a registered account for our? Yeah, great. Okay. Do you ever go back in and have a look at the requests? Okay, so did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, it's Brian. Yes. Yeah, I've used the account for years. I've also used the app since it first came out, and I can say the app is very temperamental, especially down on the lower levels, because signal is weak in areas, and I'd say the majority of the time I'm making the record and then going back home and registering it via the laptop. My main issue is feedback. I go back into the portal, there's never any notes in there.
Okay.
And the only route we've got to chase this up is to come back through yourselves. So when we come back through yourselves, there's nothing to tell us. And then it all gets skewed then.
Yeah.
Because as community councillors, we're trying very, very hard to reduce the number of calls that come into the contact centre by encouraging our residents to come to us with the issues as a single point of reporting. And that way one person can keep on top of the situation all the way through. It's so embarrassing to go and meet that member of the community or take a call from them and you've got nothing to say.
Okay.
You know, we need, as community councillors, we need information. Otherwise, you're going to get bombarded. I'll give you an example. On one Miss Waste day, which was the whole village, I received calls to the mid-30s of people that hadn't had their waste collected. I made 4 calls in. I reported it online twice.
Yeah.
And I still didn't have any satisfactory answers until the Friday when someone said to me, oh, well, you'll just have to wait till next week. Now, if I'd have had on the Tuesday afternoon, the fact that they weren't going to collect that week, I could have gone out to the community and told them that. They would have taken their waste off the streets and the situation would have been resolved and they would have waited till next week's collection. And I can tell them if there's an issue, you know, if there is a problem with drivers or transport, whatever, I can tell them that and we can deal with it. But when we don't get the help and the information to us, it makes us look incompetent is the only word I could use.
Yeah.
And people start doubting that we're actually reporting it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I get that. And I think sometimes the issue for us is communication, because quite often in the contact centre, we won't know that there are missed routes till the following day either, when they send us a list of streets that were missed. There is, I suppose, we could look to put in, for examples like that, especially if it's whole streets and we're advised, what we could potentially do is do a round robin email to your ward email addresses, just advising for your ward, if that would help.
That would help, but that is only one example.
Yeah.
You know? We receive all the reports on potholes.
Yeah.
The last time I ran the exercise, the only time I ever received a response is I went out and did a survey of the road in question.
Mm-hmm.
And I reported individually the 119 potholes. And then someone come back to me because there were 119 reports in. So they said, are these all correct? Mm-hmm. And I said, yes, they are. But those, when it started, it wasn't 119. Now, again, if someone would come back to me and I could have said to them, it's in the works program, it will be done, but we haven't got a confirmed date yet. That's all I need, because it's information I can feed back. But when no one is giving us information, we can't work with it.
Okay. Gareth, do you think this would be something that would be beneficial being discussed in CMT?
Yeah, look, if you want to escalate and raise it with corporate management team, we're more than happy to discuss it. I mean, from what you're saying, you're dependent on the back office services anyway. So I think it probably needs that sort of discussion with heads of service just to make sure that you know, whatever solution you're coming up with, they can deliver on. So yeah, more than happy to have that discussion.
You know,
okay, shall I put something together for Paul?
Yeah, if you raise that with Paul, and we can put something on the agenda and talk about how we can deal with that collectively.
I think just because it's kind of outside just, I think, city services as well. So
yeah, no, and I think that message is clear, that you're just the front end in terms of the contact point, that you are totally reliant on the back office services actually responding to these service requests. So yeah, I think we take on board what Brian and others have said in terms of the communication issues. And I think there are things we could do to improve that. But you're right, it depends upon that internal cooperation from the other service areas. So yeah, have a word with Paul. and see if we can have that discussion at corporate management team in terms of how we take this forward.
You know,
Okay.
it could be a case of if it's a request in from a community council that there is a flag they can tick a box or whatever. I used to have it on a system when I was in business where we had service level agreements. They had boxes to tick. They ticked the box. We knew that they needed feedback and needed it within 24 hours. And something like that, which is a, you know, that could help us, would really be appreciated.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
I don't know. We can look at that. I don't know whether the system has that capability of actually flagging it up in terms of a community councillor inquiry. But if not, we can certainly look at more proactive ways, say, of getting messages out. So if we know a collection isn't taking place in a particular area, that we could use you in terms of getting those messages out.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I think, you know, we understand the point, and Kerry will take that back now and discuss it with her director. We can have a conversation at our corporate management team to think about how we can improve on this process of communication. Sorry, Yvonne, you've indicated.
Yes, please. Very often when I go back and look at a report I've made, all I see is closed. There's no information whatsoever. You know, it may be defect on a pavement or something like that. And you go back, it just says closed. It doesn't say we've looked at it, we think it's good, we think it's not good, just closed, nothing else. So it's quite unhelpful, really.
I think it all comes under, I think, the same kind of bubble, isn't it? That there is no, you know, whether it's closed, whether it's left pending, whether it's left awaiting something, some kind of action. I think there should be something on there that says how it's progressing, or if it's closed, as you say, there needs to be some kind of outcome. So, but I think what we'll do then, as Gareth said, Yvonne, is I'll take it back to Paul for him to raise it to corporate management team.
Paul, did you indicate before Kath comes back in?
Yes, please. Good evening, everybody. If you haven't got an email account or whatever, and somebody just rings 656 656, they're given a reference number. How are they contacted to say that there's been action?
Karen?
Sorry. No, that's the thing. The system allows you to be a guest, so you don't even have to be a registered customer for most of the online forms. You can just be a guest that logs in. But as a guest and as a person that rings the contact centre, if you don't want an account, then you won't, you know, generally get an email update or any of those things. But a lot of the online forms actually ask you for that detail. So they'll ask you for an email address or a telephone number. And so long as we have that, we have the ability to send you a response. So
do you tell people when they ring that the app or whatever is available?
I'm not sure on what you're telling the guys, Kerry, because as I said, what I would say as well is that we haven't actively promoted the app as much as we should have, and perhaps we can go into that a bit later. But Kerry, I don't know if they actually promote the app.
Can I come in here just a second?
Is it on the same point, Brian?
Yes, it is actually.
Okay, go on.
If you take the likes of Kath and myself, we've actually issued out to the communities contact details for all aspects of reporting. And on that, we've promoted the app. We've given the details of how to contact you by phone. We've also gone to the extent that we tell people what they should report to who. So if it's a big waste, it's not Newport, it's NRW. If it's a fire, it's the fire brigade, not Newport. It's all explained on a contact sheet that we have published and issued out to the communities.
Okay. Thank you for that. Going back to the point about email addresses and the app, we don't promote it over the phone. When you email in a query, we will email you back with your reference, but we will also put the hyperlink in saying that you can report this in future at the address below.
why can't you say to a resident that phones in that, do you know that if you email us, we will automatically contact you back?
Well, when somebody rings in, the automatic question is do they have an account? Do they have an email address that we can search by? Because then it's
well,
either
that hasn't happened in my case.
well, if you've got an email address, you should be asked for the email address, because we can't set up an account without an email address. If you've not got an email address, then we'll do it as a guest, as like an anonymous guest. But you should definitely be asked for an email address, so I'll check that one.
Kath?
Thanks, Gareth. Well, I've got an email address, and I've actually, I don't know if you see this bit of paper, it's a big long list of things that I've reported by the app, by email and phone-in, and I've never had feedback on any of them.
Kath, can I just ask quickly, have you ever gone into the customer portal, into your own registered account, and had a look at your requests that you've put in?
Well, I haven't, no, but I would have thought if you've got my email address and my phone number, then, you know, there is plenty of opportunity for me to get some sort of feedback, even if it's just, well, we're dealing with it, you know, we'll get back to you soon.
A lot of the requests that we have, and we have probably about, so just very quickly, MCS is My Council Services. So MCS is the software that we use, and it's My Council Services. It's used by a number of authorities across England and Wales, but for our benefit, really, it's also used by Torfaen, Monmouth, Blaen y Gwent, Caerphilly. So we have a really big network of people using the same software, which is really good for us. And it means that customers get used to using the same sort of forms and the technology. So within My Council Services, we've got an app that some of you have seen. It hasn't been promoted as yet, but we're just still developing it, and it's, you know, really great to get feedback on all of that. It's downloadable on the Play Store, and it's what our internal staff use for when they're out and about using mobile worker. So if our highways guys are out, they use the same app as the customer would. We've also got a customer portal, which is where you register, and then everything that you do and have done over the phone or online or on the app, you can see all of that in your account. So you've got all of that detail as well. And in the customer portal as well, you can see your bin day collections. We're actually doing a link now for your council tax, so you'll be able to see all your council tax details. So the customer portal is developing all the time. And then we have an admin portal that is used for all of the staff that are using it across the council, including the contact centre, but a lot of the services are using it as well. And then all of the online forms that are on the website. So there's probably about 230 forms that are on the website at the minute. And they're exactly the same forms that you would use if you were using the app, if you were at the contact centre, or all of that. So it's quite a big system, and we have only probably been developing it since late 2018. But sort of the last year, we've sort of been hit by, as everyone, by COVID and how all of that has impacted. So we're continually doing a lot of that work, where we probably would have concentrated on developing the app and things if we hadn't have had to sort of backtrack a little bit and do all of those things. You know, the winter fuel payments coming out on Monday, so we're always constantly at the minute trying to keep up to date with all the changes from the government as well to manage that. But I've lost my train of thought now. But as I say, MCS is a huge thing, and what I would also say is that we haven't probably had the opportunity for people to give us a lot of feedback, and I think that the community councils are probably really key for us to be able to be provided with feedback on all of these things. And I think now that maybe, especially now in the next year when everything's maybe settled, we'll have the opportunity to engage with you I know that I've worked with Councillor Forsey on a form and have had feedback and developed that form. And I'm always really appreciative of anybody that would like to give us, you know, insight into how they've managed something or how they've not managed something. And especially this feedback now query, I think that's going to be really beneficial for us to go forward and see what we can do for you. But perhaps at the end, I can give you our email address for my team. And if you have queries that you have with regards to the forms and the apps and any of those things, is you engage with us and we'll see what we can do to, you know, alleviate some of the queries you've got. I don't know if you find that beneficial, but we're always happy to do that.
Can I just and say, so what you said is that if you haven't got my council services, then you don't get feedback.
It depends, but generally most of it is if you are a registered customer.
Because that should be highlighted somewhere, because I didn't know that. But also, I mean, it does say on the charter and on the app, it says you will receive a reply within 5 days. And I've got a friend that actually works for Newport Council, and she said the same to me, that she doesn't get any feedback.
I think that's what Kerry and Gareth were talking about earlier, is that MCS integrates with a lot of the service area systems. So the potholes one will actually go into the system that's used by highways, and so it's all automated, you know, and that's the way forward, isn't it? You want to get something straight out to the inspector as soon as it comes in, and get the work done, but you also want then the feedback coming back to you. And I think, again, because of everything that's happened, I think maybe we haven't concentrated as much as getting that information back to you. I don't know, and you know, it's something we need to work with the service areas with, just to make sure we do that. But it depends on whether the system is talking and whether the service areas are inputting that data. So some emails will come out. Yes, you will get emails from service areas. I don't know if any of you do resident parking, say for instance, have had residents parking, or I don't know, blue badges, or I don't know, I don't want to say civil parking enforcement tickets or anything, but just in case, you would actually get feedback from all of those. They're the kinds of things that you actually do get email notifications for, you get reminder notices, you know, all of that is coming out of the system. There's definitely information coming out. But I think for you guys and for your constituents, it's about the actual information, isn't it? It's about what's actually helpful in managing people's expectations, and that's what we need to look at, I think.
Yeah, well, if I could come in here, one thing that has become clear during COVID is the bond between the community and the community councils has grown and grown and grown. And we are now their first point of contact. Now, as a community councillor, I don't want to be reporting things 2, 3, 4 times, the same things. If I had feedback, that would also save me time, as well as being able to give something tangible back to the people that are reporting to us. You know, I've had instances where I've had to get the police involved because I can't give an answer back from the authority. Because we've had instances where there could have been a criminal offence and someone being charged for committing a criminal offence, a driving offence, for no fault of their own. Yet, if I'd have had the information back from highways on this instance, I could have fed that out. You know, I'm struggling to see how we can give the service back to our community if we're just the same as every one of the 85,000 that are registered on the system, because you know it's just not the same. You know, we're trying to save you work by putting one call in rather than 10 or 30 calls in. We've got the bond with the community. We can feed back easier to the community than you can. You know, people don't report missed collections to Newport Authority anymore. They report them to their community councillor. So I'm reporting everyone else's missed, whether it be one house or the whole village. that comes through me or through our council. And we need to be able to have something tangible to feed back.
The system, from my perspective, because this is what I manage the system. The system can do what we need it to do. I just need to be able to get that. I need to be able to liaise with the departments, talk to Kerry, talk to the service areas. Sorry, the cat is going to decide if he wants to join our conversation. Sorry. Sorry. From my point of view, the system is capable of doing what we need it to do. We just need to understand what you need. Is basically it. And and that's a conversation that Gareth and Kerry need to have.
Yeah, it's a slightly different conversation, Brian. We've had this discussion before in terms of collective issues within the community.
Yeah,
that we will communicate with you as community councillors, as that sort of our link, if you like, with the community. And that's what Karen and I were talking about, getting messages out there and avoiding the need then for people to report individual service requests or complaints if there's a common answer.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case. I mean, in other cases, we are encouraging individual people, and we're not telling them to bypass their community council, but in some cases where they are specific individual, they are far better logging those issues themselves directly using the My Newport account for the reasons that we've explained in terms of automation. So I think there's slightly different issues. We take your point in terms of messaging and common issues within the community, and Kerry and I will take that back to corporate management team to see how we can improve that. But I wouldn't be sort of encouraging everyone with their own individual service requests or issues to be saving those up and going through yourself, for example, and for you to go on a system and log them all separately. We are really encouraging people to report those directly via the app or online, because that's the quicker way of dealing with them. And at the end of the day, if there's an easy resolution to the complaint, that's what we want.
Yeah.
We don't want lots of emails going back and forth. Ideally, we want these service requests closed off as soon as possible.
Exactly. We've got a luxury if we've got information coming back, and it is information that people should know. Let's say about this road sign issue that I spoke of earlier, or road closures, things like that. We can post it. We can post things like that on the social media groups locally, so everyone's aware. Because people don't see this type of thing. And they're looking for us as community councillors now for a lot more than they were 2 or 3 years ago. They never brought things like that to us before, but now they are.
And I think where there are collective issues like that, and we can get early messages out to actually avoid the need for people to try and report these things separately, I think that makes perfect sense. So we will look at that in terms of how we can improve that messaging. Sorry, Yvonne, did you want to come back?
Well, I've just looked up a request I put in on the 17th of November, 118-60096, problem with a pavement. There's just nothing on there.
Does it say it's still open?
I think it's still open. Yeah, there's just no reply, nothing.
And I think that's the issue that we're talking about, isn't it? Is that service area would have told us that, they would respond, however, whether it's a note on the system, whether it goes out through email, within so many working days. And this is where we are, that hasn't happened, which then causes repeat calls. As contact centre manager, I what Gareth has said is right. We would rather people use the system themselves. As Karen attested to, we've got 85,000 accounts out there, which is, that's massive considering I thought we were still at around 50,000. So that's gone, through the roof. I think the other thing for that as well is that if we've got people reporting their own issues, then we can actually pull reports from the system, and we can highlight things like, top 3 service requests, the volumes of calls that we're getting about potholes or miscollections, and then you can start targeting in on those issues with the appropriate service area to say, you know, we're seeing this and it's going up every month. And that's the whole reason why it's a good, I think it's a really good thing to be using the system, because as much as you're putting in, we can get lots of information out then to start improving services. You don't want to report, you know, every single household miscollection in your area. Get your citizens to do that, get your residents to do that, because then you have a really good picture of what's going on out in the community. So, but I think it's twofold. There's one where we can, you know, if we have information, we can preempt, you know, your residents contacting you if we can give you that information up front. And then there's the second one about information coming back out to you, whether it's a note on your customer portal, whether it's through an email, it's you getting that information out. So I think for you, Yvonne, if, you know, if the job is still open, if they put a note on there saying, you know, even if it was still waiting to be inspected, at least you would know that something was happening. So I think that's kind of the crux of the matter.
There's just no information on there. It looks exactly the same as I submitted it on the 17th of November. There's some pictures, there's some comments, there's a number. I can't find anything else.
What was the reference number again? I can use that as an example.
118
yeah.
60096.
Okay. Lovely. Okay.
Thank you. We'll look into that, obviously. I mean, clearly, if there's a lack of information being posted there, that's something else that we can look into in terms of improving the system. You know, as Kerry and Karen has said, you know, we are still developing this system. So any feedback that you give us in terms of things that we can improve on would be extremely helpful. So we'll take on board those comments, certainly in terms of how we can improve the communication that is coming back on these issues. Does anyone else have any questions?
One, Gareth, before we close down. I've been in a few meetings lately where FlyMapper is on the agenda, and local authorities are bringing FlyMapper into their systems. Now, at the moment, when I'm reporting waste, I have to report it on FlyMapper for the other agencies to pick it up, and then I've got to go onto the Newport system to report it on your system. It would be much easier if it was one system. And in these meetings, there is, you know, the agencies are talking of authorities taking on FlyMapper as the main information source for fly tipping and waste.
I'm probably not qualified to answer that question, right? Or whether Karen's got any compatibility systems.
Yeah, no. So we work with Christine. Christine and the guys. So the fly tipping guys and pint teams are using MCS as their mobile application to go out and do their work. It depends, because we've talked to Natural Resource Wales with regards to FlyMapper and the other system then that they have to upload the data into. And we could actually send our data, as Monmouth are doing, from MCS, from our system, and they could actually upload it, and then it gets uploaded, it sort of gets rolled up then. So we're having conversations with Christine. I think it depends on what the best option is. So long as MCS can actually provide the data that Natural Resource Wales needs for FlyMapper, it doesn't matter. They can just take that data and upload it. I'm not sure has there been a reason why they're not sort of, or why they haven't introduced FlyMapper, or they just feel that they don't, you know, because it's, you know, it's just having so many systems, isn't it? And that's...
Yeah, well, I was part of the pilot on FlyMapper for community councils back at the start of the Levels project, but it does mean that I've got to report it on two systems, because FlyMapper doesn't talk to yours, and as far as I'm aware, your system doesn't talk to FlyMapper.
Okay, so we had a chat, and I want to say Nathan and Ben, but I can't recall it. Would Natural Resource Wales, do you know the guys at Natural Resource Wales? Anyway.
It'll come to me in about 3 minutes.
we have had that conversation, and as I say, Monmouth at the moment, all what they're doing, they're providing data from MCS in an Excel spreadsheet that can actually just be, because of the format, can just actually be loaded into FlyMapper. So effectively, you could just record your call on MCS, and then our teams internally will just run a report and send that up to them with all of the FlyMapper detail that they need. And by doing that as well, it'll roll up into the other system that they have to do for the Welsh Assembly Government. So it'll actually just roll up. So is Christine normally in those meetings, Brian? Is that
she's in a couple of the panels. She's not in them all. The one panel is a national panel, and it's more Flight Tip in Action Wales, Welsh Government, and the people that are struggling, like the River Authority, Network Rail, that type of thing.
Okay, so I'll have a conversation. I actually have a call in for January with Chris to discuss a few things that we're helping her with. I don't know if that's too late, or you'd rather we have the conversation earlier with her. But one of those things is about FlyMapper and about how we actually help them, because ultimately they're doing exactly the same, and really, we don't want them to duplicate work. We want them to be able to put it into one system, and it just actually then integrate with everything. So I did have a call. I have talked to them about an integration piece as well, whether it'll actually automate it rather than us even send them an Excel document. So yes, we're looking at that, and hopefully in the future, very soon, we'll have one system that you can just use. But if you did want to keep involved with that, drop me a mail, and I can just keep you up to date with how we're progressing anyway.
Lovely, because we do promote that system and the app and the Newport app for when dealing with waste, because with the conversations I've had with Christine, it's so helpful when she can see what the problem is without having to send someone out to look at it, and then they got to go back to decide what they do. If they see the photograph, they've got a general idea of what's there.
Yeah. No, definitely. I say happy to keep you updated with the progress that we're doing integration with that. No worries.
Okay, thank you.
So happy with that, Brian? So we'll have a look at that going forward. I mean, by the sound of it, you're not going to get a fully integrated system anytime soon. But if you can at least export data from one to the other, it'll avoid the need for double reporting. So so Karen will look at that with Christine, and hopefully we'll report back at a future meeting.
Yeah, that's great. You know me, Gareth, I'm always happy. I'm just happy of more.
So well, yeah, happier than Brian, obviously. Thank you. Anyone else got any questions? Happy or otherwise? No? Okay, that's been really helpful. So can I thank Kerry then and Karen for attending? We've got one or two things I think that we'll take from this meeting now and report back. And once we've had a consideration of those issues, a corporate management team, I'll report back at a future meeting in terms of how we're taking that forward.
Lovely, great.
Is that okay?
Thank you very much, both.
Thank you both.
Thanks. Brilliant. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
What have we got left?
Not long.
Right, item 6, response times from Newport City Council officers. I think, Pam, was this at the request of Greg?
Was that in relation to
Paul's looking blankly, so I'm not sure if it is from Greg.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
God. All right. Okay. Sorry.
Paul?
It's basically following on from what we've just spoken about. When we email different officers in Newport City Council and we don't get a reply. I can give it plenty of examples with naming people, but I don't want to do that. I think that's unfair. But when you're promised from a senior officers in the City Council that they will do this, that and the other, leave it with me, you don't hear nothing for weeks. You then email them and you get no response, and then you email them again and you still don't get a response. And this is something, I'll give you an example on this. 10 years ago, I met with City Council officials about the speed sign between the Rupera and the Friendly Fox. I've had meetings with Andrew Jenkins and Lee Benham. Phil Slade has agreed to move the the speed sign to relocate it. He said that it would cost Greg £350. He wouldn't do it until he had the money up front. That was a year ago. Since then, I've emailed him a couple of times. I've had a meeting with services who said that's ridiculous that you should be asked to pay for that. Leave that with us and we'll sort it in the next couple of weeks. That was in July. I've emailed that person 3 times and I haven't had a response.
Look, I think as we've said at previous meetings, if you don't get the desired response, then by all means, come back via Pam or myself, because we are central point of contact, if you like, in terms of issues regarding communication. Tell us exactly, what questions remain unanswered and who you've been dealing with, and if necessary, we can escalate it. Now, we'll have to escalate it with heads of service or directors within those service areas. But in view of the commitment that we've given in the charter in terms of communication with community councillors, if you're not getting that desired response, then tell us, and we will pursue that on your behalf.
Okay, there's 2 serious things that were health and safety, which we were told would be attended to straight away. Again, that was July. And they haven't been done.
If you're not getting any response from the service areas, then we will escalate that with the head of service or director on your behalf. So by all means, get in touch with Pam or myself as your point of contact, and we'll then raise that matter and escalate it within that service area and see if we get a response for you.
Okay.
Kath?
So can I quote this meeting and you?
Sorry?
Can I quote this meeting? This meeting you said that we could go through you.
Yeah, it's in the charter. Look, we've given a commitment in the charter in terms of communication with community councils. We've cascaded that message out to the service areas so people are aware of that corporate commitment that we've given. Pam is nodding because she's the one who keeps sending it round. Yep. So yeah, look, we will raise that matter with the relevant heads of service if you're not getting the desired response. So yeah, absolutely, you can quote me on that. It's in the recording, so we can't deny it. But yes, obviously, try to get these matters resolved directly first with the people in the service areas. But if you don't get a response, then by all means come back to Pam or myself, and we will raise it within that service area and try and get you a response, as soon as possible.
Can I just ask then, Gareth, about a letter that Greg wrote to you in January 2019? I think
yeah, you can, but
I think the one I'm not going into detail.
I can quote you about probably hundreds of emails I'll send you on it in the meantime, but I know what you're referring to, and I will deal with that. At the moment, the messages I'm getting are that burial board is operating smoothly.
That's not the question we're asking.
No, I know, and I will take that report to a cabinet member for a decision for you.
You said that in June, Gareth.
Yes, I did. But in all fairness, the issues keep changing.
Which issues?
The issues about Greg's position and Rogerson's position, as you are well aware. Anyway, I have responded to your emails on those. I don't think you can say I've not replied to your emails. Yes, we have yet to take a cabinet member decision on that. But yeah, I'll note that, and we will progress that.
Please.
But if I'm honest, it's not top of my urgent list, because my understanding is that burial board is now functioning properly.
But you've heard that from one side.
Well, are you telling me otherwise, are you?
No, it is going well. But the bottom line is that I don't want to end up in court again, which the current court case is going on regarding this.
Well, probably this is probably not the forum to discuss that
No, it's not.
that
No,
matter.
I
Then.
agree. But that is an issue that we have at play.
Yeah, point taken. Like I said, I don't believe that's an issue in terms of me not communicating with you, but I admit the council has not yet taken a decision on that, and I will progress that for you.
Thank you, Gareth.
No problem. Does that deal with the issue that you wanted to raise, Paul, in terms of?
Yeah, I think it's, as I said, it's a follow on from the previous ladies talking us about the contact centre. And it's just communication.
Yeah, like I said, to me, it's a slightly different issue. In terms of individual complaints, we would deal with them via the customer services system and via that automated system. Where you're raising issues as a community council, general matters, and you talked about road signs there, for example, and speed limits and so on, that's different. That's a different method of communication. There you would email the service area directly. You should get a response as per the charter. And if you don't raise that with us, but that's more about general community council issues, not individual service requests or complaints. So I think they're slightly different issues. But on those general matters, yeah, more than happy for you to come back to either Pam and myself with details of what needs replying to, and we'll pursue that for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem. Kath?
Yeah, just on the matter of communication, I'm presuming Newport Council has sort of like an intranet where you have everybody's job title and direct telephone number. I think it's been mentioned before about the community councils having some sort of directory.
It was mentioned in one of the previous meetings, yes.
Yeah, so that we don't have to go through 656. Whether the clerks are able to have, because it would be helpful for the clerk.
Yeah, it's not council policy to give out individual officers direct telephone numbers. Certainly not junior members of staff. That's why everyone is encouraged to go through the contact centre and to dial the contact centre number.
I'm wondering whether that would help the communication aspect of.
No, I don't think it does. And to be honest, we don't give. And you're not being treated any differently to city councillors. We don't give junior officers telephone numbers to city councillors because we don't encourage them to deal with more junior members of staff.
With all city councillors. Department then.
Sorry?
Well, just give us all the heads of the
Yeah, that's fine. No, that's fair game. And that's what city councillors are told. You know, here are the direct numbers of the heads of service. Sometimes third tier managers if necessary. And if you've got any issues within those services, contact the managers.
The clerks, do the community council clerks, have they got access to some sort of directory?
No, there isn't a directory as such. I mean, there is an intranet where you can look at people's phone numbers. Obviously, through Outlook, in terms of the council's directory, we can find internal numbers there. But like I said, we don't encourage people from outside the council to ring officers directly on their numbers. But contact details of senior managers, I don't see a problem with that. But really, you know, for the purposes of communication, that's why you've got Pam's details and you've got my details.
We just go through you.
Yeah, and we can pass your contact details on and so on. It's easier than in terms of lines of communication.
I've noted down the time and the date that you said that.
It's all on the recording. I can't deny it. You know, yeah, that's fine. Look, like I said, in terms of data protection, we don't give out people's details and contact numbers, but heads of service are fair game. and if you needed the...
Are they on the Newport City Council site?
No.
No, I didn't think so.
No, look, we've probably got some internal directory that we use for city councillors of heads of service contact details that we could probably give you. So I'll talk to Pam about that and what we can send round, but that will be at a very high level. And like I said, I would only encourage you to use that, not in emergencies, but if it was really absolutely necessary. Otherwise, for other issues, if you don't know the service area concerned, then Pam can point you in the right direction.
Okay, thanks very much.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Any other points or questions?
No.
No.
Are we on any other business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that through our clerk at Marshall Community Council, we set up a meeting with Neil Gunther and Matthew Sharp, just for the council to be informed about enforcement and be able to ask some questions. It was a very informal meeting that we had on Tuesday, and I have to say it was very worthwhile. And I just wanted to say that the officers were very, very helpful, and they also helped judge the children's Christmas bauble competition. So he said if there's any complaints, it's going to be put straight through to Gareth.
No, I'm not judging the
if there's any crying children.
I think that was very unfair, to be honest. Asking planning enforcement questions, but asking to judge a competition. Unfair. But there we are. No, thanks for that, and we'll certainly pass that on to the
it was
head
excellent.
That's
yeah,
really
it was excellent. Yeah, well worth doing. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks very much. Any other business anyone wants to raise? Paul?
Yeah, so thank you, Gareth. Has the City Council issued any guidance on the use of the hiring out of village halls or community centres? You go on the Welsh Government website and it's old, it's not up to date, it's very unclear. Like how many people can meet indoors and everything.
Oh, you're talking about COVID guidance, yeah?
COVID guidance, yeah, sorry, Gareth.
No, we don't. And the reason we don't do it is precisely for that reason. We just direct people to the Welsh Government website because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are issuing the guidance. And it's not for us really. We'll help people with risk assessments.
Yeah.
So if people have got any issues about how they carry out risk assessments and so on, we can give helpful advice on that. But no, we don't put our slant or interpretation on Welsh Government guidance for obvious reasons. Because at the end of the day, it's for Welsh Government to issue that guidance. And in many cases, it is for being pushed back to the organisers and managers of the premises to do their own local risk assessments.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's as sort of as vague as that sometimes. So yeah, we it's not for us to try and explain what people need to do, but we can certainly help and assist if there are any issues in terms of what needs to be done.
Have any of the other community councils still got restrictions on use of their village halls or anything, like children's parties? We've said no.
Yeah, one of our halls has got a restriction on it, but the halls have decided what level they will go to. One of the halls has only opened once, to my knowledge, to this date, since the first lockdown. The other hall went to small gatherings when the government announced it, and had a larger gathering again when the government announced it. But they were very clear on the guidelines that the people using the hall had to follow, and the hall themselves set their own guidelines.
Yeah, we've done the same. We've allowed the normal hirers, i.e. karate or something like that have booked the halls for years to continue. but we have not allowed any children's parties or events in the hall, because you don't know numbers, is very hard, and you can't monitor who's there, who's not, etc. So that's our stance. We're not open to parties.
Yeah, and that's perfectly valid. Like I said, now we're in alert level 0, then the numerical restrictions and the prescriptive requirements no longer apply. Well, it's been pushed back now to local risk assessments and basically left to the discretion of organisers and managers of the premises as to what numbers they think they can safely accommodate and for what sort of functions. So that's absolutely fine.
Yeah. For an example, Paul, the hall in this village is still running track and trace.
But that's not a legal requirement anymore.
No, but there's still that is something they want to keep in the local hall.
Yeah.
They've made
If it's a local measure, if it helps them as part of the risk assessment, then all well and good. But again, that's not a legal requirement anymore because we're in a alert level 0 now, as things stand at the moment. Could change, but there we are.
Tomorrow.
Does that?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Gareth.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, so we think it would be even more confusing if we put our local slant on Welsh Government guidance. So that's why we don't do it. And if people ask us for advice, we just direct them to the link to the Welsh Government website. But with your local risk assessments, if you have issues, I know we've got people in trading standards and regulatory services that go around and check people's risk assessments, and they can help you with that if you've got any issues.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else got any other business?
No, thank you.
Okay, in which case, the date of the next meeting is the 24th of March of next year. So can I wish you all a Merry Christmas? And
yes, and the same to you.
The same to
Merry
you.
Christmas to you all.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next March.
To all of you.
Christmas.
Thank you, Gareth.